Well, let's get started. Happy Sunday morning. Just want to do an audio check here, see how we're doing. We've had some issues. Make sure the stream is working. Okay, I think we're online. So let me welcome everyone. I'm John Dark Viking, working on Iron. Iron is a text editor, 3D text editor, which has um, a bunch of. Hang on, had to turn off the sound from my laptop. But Iron here, as you can see, this is what we're using um, to develop Iron with. It's come to the point where I've been using Iron for most of a year, and and we're getting close to having our beta come out. Should be next month in just a few weeks. So trying to cram in a bunch of things and see if we can build some excitement and do some streaming. And I just want to point out, I'm not a professional streamer. Um, I'm going to practice to pay attention to the chat. Normally, once focused, I kind of shut everything out. I think a lot of programmers do that. You kind of get into your zen. Um, and narrating while you're working isn't really a natural thing, at least maybe not for most people, certainly not for me, but we'll give it a shot. So what's going on today? What I'm going to stream about is I'm just going to use Iron in production use and make one small change dealing with the mouse clipping when you capture the mouse, restricting the position of where the mouse can flow in the app when you have the left button clicked. And that's just going to be adding a parameter and working with Iron and Slang. And Slang is a language that I've written Iron in. It's a custom language I made about 15 years ago. And I hope everybody brought coffee. We will have official and unofficial coffee breaks as we go along. So let's just practice. Mm, that is how an unofficial coffee break happens. Um, so, um, so I'm not really going to describe in any kind of detail any particular feature of Iron as we go along. I hope you just enjoy watching me work a little bit, and I will narrate along the way. Um, but I also want to point out, okay, so why am I going into focus stealing, Windows focus stealing? Okay, so we've got Iron here. Let me just show you briefly. We've got multiple panes, got status and debug, got text of all kinds of sizes, and that was getting kind of large for me. You can see down here in the corner we've got different, in the corner of each pane, we've got some 3D animation going on. These particular globes and planets here of our solar system don't really serve a great deal of purpose other than to let me know that the graphics is working. And there you can see the steampunk pipes kind of explode. And they do that every once in a while. All can be turned off so you can stay focused. And once you reach that coding zen, and that's what we hope people will do, is that Iron won't yank you out of it, but it will also keep you kind of entertained. Um, here's one of my favorite features is just the snowblower. I tell you, like 3 in the morning, it'll make you laugh, and it actually turns out it's kind of useful. It's nice to get some kind of reaction from your text editor. Um, so just want to mention, I'm going to try to stick to the syllabus somewhat. Somewhat. Okay, so we've got a lot of mottos when putting Iron together and as a company. And one of them is, we want folks to customize, whether it's our tool or somebody else's tool, and make it fit like a glove. To be the most proficient programmer you can be, you really want your tools to be used. It's like you want to be able to drive your car without having to look at the gear shift or the pedals. Um, and if you can customize your tool and work the way you want to work, for the most part, and all the key mappings are right, and the menus work well, then it should fit like a glove, or close enough. Um, so we are often faced making decisions as we're putting iron together is how much customization should be allowed, or how much does a programmer need? A novice programmer probably doesn't need any as long as the tool works correctly out of the box. When it comes to a seasoned programmer, they probably have more constraints or habits that they like to service rather than have to work around. Um, so, but it's also we don't want to put so much complication out into customizing something that it now becomes you're hacking your editor. I know that's a tagline to a really popular editor Adam. I'm not bashing it, but it's not what we want to recommend. It's folks don't want to spend all day trying to uh, customize or hack their editor. They really need to get their project done. So one of our taglines is, build your project, not your editor. And so it comes down to a balance. It's like, well, how much customization do we want to offer? Should be allowed? Is needed by a seasoned programmer? Doesn't encumber a novice programmer to being able to, customize a tool to their needs? Um, so it's kind of a don't know just how far to go or whether we've gone far enough. But hopefully, with a demo and once we get iron out and release, we'll get that kind of feedback and be able to balance that as we go along with iron's continued development. So build your project, not your editor. However, I have a Dark Viking software waiver. I use iron to create iron. So I am in fact hacking our tool, and I'll give you a good demonstration of that a little later on, where I'll be making changes. Okay, so let me show you what the issue is today. Go into a dual pane mode, and I'm gonna bring this font down just a little bit. Let's put it up. That should be 14 point there. That's the recommended. LVF, welcome. Neo Marek, I'm terrible at names, and Raccoon with 3 C's. Welcome, and I'm glad you guys are here. So just want to point out, we have our beta coming up next month, and you can get your hands on iron very soon. And we want your feedback because, uh, we're just making good guesses on what programmers might need based on my 40 years of experience. But I'm just one person in a really huge crowd. So feedback is going to be really important to us. And we want to answer people's needs with a 3D text editor. Okay, so in dual pane mode, what I want to do is I want to describe how, now let's see, following my syllabus here, momentary coffee break. Now I recall where I was going. So I've got the same file opened in 2 panes, and you see I've got the minimap here, and the minimap in the middle here. I can do selections, okay, and I can do the same over here. And when I go to the left, converts to line selections. Here you've got column selections, and then when I slide off to the right, I drag the mouse out. It acts like a slider bar. Now, watch where my caret goes. My mouse cursor is like I can drag all the way off to the edge of the app. So the mouse is being clipped right now just to the edge of the app. And now I'm driving back to the left, and I managed to get way off to the right. Now iron kind of deals with 8,000, you can have lines that are 8,000 characters. Actually, it's 8,000 bytes if you're using UTF-8 fonts. And that's just kind of arbitrary. It can be reset. That's one of those customizations. If for some reason 8,000 bytes worth of characters is not enough per line, you can increase that. It's huge. So anyway, the point of what I'm showing you is that when I'm holding the mouse down, I want to constrain where the mouse cursor can go. So when I'm in the minimap here, now it doesn't scroll horizontally. So when I go off to the left, I'm off in a gutter, and it's I'm doing a line selection. and when I go off to the right, doesn't matter how far the mouse cursor goes, and I'm off to the right. But my interaction, the widget I'm interacting with is the minimap. And so my thought is, though it doesn't necessarily bother me personally, is that some folks might find it more useful if when they click here in the minimap, that the mouse cursor is just constrained, that it, you don't run off here or drag off into a completely another window, because it doesn't really necessarily serve a purpose. Once you get off to the right of this widget, that's as far as it makes sense. I know it might seem a little contrived, but there are other UI widgets and 3D interactions that are going to happen where constraining or clipping the mouse, it's called clipping, um, to a particular region on the screen may be important or useful. So that's what we're going to try to do, is try to make sure that that the cursor, when I'm interacting with the minimap, is just constrained in this vertical column here. That's the chore for the day. That's the task. What I want to point out too is here now we've got, I want to describe the hierarchy. Now, oops, let me go this way. I'm going to go smaller. So the hierarchy in our terminology here in Iron is we've got a window, and it's a Windows window, okay? This whole thing is a window. Your app resides in a Windows window. And inside a Windows window, there is what's called a client space, or, it's the stuff that is just where your app can go. It's not the border, the drop-down menus. We don't have Windows drop-down menus. But so there's the client space. Inside of Iron, we have, we don't call them windows, so they're not confused. We call them panes. And that's what this pipe border is about, that's a pane. There's two panes on the screen right now. Here's the command palette. It shows up in its own pane. This is a red one. And here's the build pane, and that shows up. And here we've got a whole bunch of panes. Project pane, a debug, and a status one. Okay, and then inside of each pane, go down to a single Windows, the areas are broken up into views. And part of our demo is I'm gonna change the rendering of Iron. This is where I'm gonna hack my editor so you can see what's going on. But there are multiple views within each pane. This one, the minimap, is in its own view, and that's why we want to kind of constrain it to a view, the mouse cursor. Then there's the text pane, and that's where your file and source code show up. And then over here on the left is a number pane, and there'll probably be a gutter in there at some point, to show you where lines have changed. So, and then there is the pane is its own view. The whole thing, all three of those lower level panes are within a pane. And so, as you can see, we're dealing with a bunch of different coordinate systems. And I'll get into that a little bit further. It's kind of like, where is 0, 0 on this screen? Well, 0, 0 in Windows is up here in the client space. The screen space, 0, 0 is up here, and Y goes down. In OpenGL, 0, 0 is in this lower left corner and goes up. So where's the views coordinate system? Where's its 0, 0? And we'll get into that. And that'll become important because we're going to have to change, when I click on something and we want to constrain it, it's kind of like, well, we've got to convert things out to, well, is it client space, window space, or screen space, or is it view space? And we'll go into that, kind of discover that as part of our exercise here. So let me go back to a full screen. We'll take an official coffee break. Everybody brought some, I hope. All right. So, and I'm going to try to practice today, as I said earlier. Try to keep an eye on the chat. It's not a normal thing. I tend to turn everything off so I'm not interrupted. But I really want to field some questions, and if people have comments, please type them in, and I'll try to make reference to them. Does that go? DZE. Thanks for returning. You were here yesterday. I appreciate you coming back and joining us again. Okay. And I've got the return of the frog in the throat. Hang on. Okay, so let me show you just briefly, some of the software that we're going to be taking a look at. So the actual software we're going to be plowing into is, let's go to mouse and we'll search for capture. And search again. Here it is. This is the routine. You can see it's incredibly huge. And what's going on here is the key map, as part of pressing a button, we'll call this function. And what I'm doing is I'm capturing the mouse to the entire Windows window. And that's just kind of the default action. That's so the mouse actions will get fed into Iron's message loop and be processed as the mouse moves. Excuse me. And then I'm clipping the mouse to the entire screen. Okay, just the window that we're working in. So when I press the mouse, I can't get my mouse cursor. And I know that's annoying to some folks, and that's why we're doing this change, is not everybody would like their mouse to be constrained. And once we get to the, implementing Iron's docking system properly, or the, we'll want to be able to grab file tabs and drag them off and place them somewhere else on our desktop. So the assumption that we want to clip to the client space is not necessarily valid, depending on what the user wants to do and their particular flavor. So anyway, this is the simple thing, and we're going to create an enumeration type, and we're going to pass it in as a parameter, and then we're going to clip to different things. One will be as no clipping. We'll clip to the app window. We'll clip to a particular view or a particular pane. So this little bitty routine we're gonna stretch out. And then let's take a look at Iron keymap. So here's the keymap file. And actually, let me go back to, this is our routine, Iron mouse capture. Iron mouse capture. Maybe it should be Iron mouse clip, but we'll just go with that. And what's happening is this routine down here, you can see this function is register actions. Now this is the way functions inside of Iron get introspected or reflected outward. So the key map system can make use of it, and this is how you can customize. And this is a pretty manual process right now. Iron is written in Slang, and it also has an introspective system built into it, but it's not sufficient for what we need. So Iron has its own. So this is where functions inside of Iron written in Slang get exposed to the key map. So the name of this one is over here, mouse. Well, that's mouse unpick, but the one we're interested in is mouse capture. This one. Okay, so this is what we're altering. Okay, Iron mouse capture. And so here is the key map. This is all the hotkeys, the shortcuts, if you want to call them that. I just refer to them as key mappings or key bindings. And the routine is right here. This is the one when you do a mouse pick, we capture the mouse, and we want to add in here. That's just that dialog, by the way, is just checking out the file from Perforce, so I can change it. Mouse capture, and so we want to do something like add view or window or pane. These are what we want to capture and clip to. And so, or none, something like that. So we're going to make an enumeration type and be able to type that in there. And in this way, you as programmers or seasoned programmers can get out there and kind of say, okay, I don't really like the fact that the mouse clips to a particular region. You can turn it off, and you can do that in the key map by just taking it out, or in fact saying none is what we're aiming for, or view, and we'll want to make it different views, the minimap view, for example, or the pane view. So as we go along, we'll figure out exactly what we want to clip to. As you see down here, here's the unpick routine. So it's doing a mouse uncapture, and that's what removes the constraint. And then it does an unpick, and then it picks the menus. Some of this stuff I've been working on Iron's new menu system, and that's why you see this commented out. And this command is actually probably, I'll just leave it. It's been working. It is working. So let's not muck around. Let me show you some of the 3D thing. I see this right here. I kind of wanted to show this because it's kind of silly. It's kind of fun. But it exercises both the pick as well as some of the OpenGL graphics that we're doing in Iron. So this liquid thing here, I'm going to turn this on, and liquid toggle equals this command palette equals true. Now this, I mentioned introspection and the fact I'm writing in Slang. Now the command palette kind of jumps onto Slang's introspection, or its reflection, and it knows about a variable that I've defined in Slang in the source code called liquid toggle, and I've exposed it through the language so I can write commands to it and just set booleans and values, and that's what's going on here. But anyway, so and I didn't give any kind of positive response here. That's typically what we want to do. Here you can see that the command was registered in the status pane. Okay, liquid toggle equals true. And if I just kind of muffed it up, Iron complains and says, I don't know what you want me to do. Okay. And unfortunately, I couldn't get the audio, so you can hear the audio. Iron actually responds and says, hey, that's an error. And it says in HAL 9000's voice that, humans are the source of all problems, something along those lines. I can hear it. Unfortunately, today you can't, and I apologize for that. So anyway, I've turned on liquid. What does liquid do? So when I'm doing a left mouse pick, and it's a press, and I'm pressing liquid. You can see the goofy, like it's a drip of water. Okay. I don't know what we would use that for in particular. I know when I leave it on, and I can make, it's like I'm splashing water onto the screen, right? And it'll just make you nauseous after a while. But it just kind of demonstrates some of the graphics power that we have, and that we have a lot more in store as Iron matures on what we're going to do with the 3D graphics. So we're hoping for your support and your enthusiasm in this, and that you can share some of the ideas. Some of your ideas, if we can spawn some new ones and put things into Iron and just make it more fun to program. It's kind of like, I don't know if this would be useful. I know when I'm playing with the mouse, this kind of makes me a little bit sick and a little bit green, so I don't leave it on, even though I don't use the mouse a great deal. It's again kind of one of our mottos is more keyboard, less mousing around. So it is kind of funny that we're talking about the mouse, but there still has to be some functionality for novices and for folks that do rely on the mouse. I kind of recommend that, hey, if you can use all 10 fingers and get things done faster, use all 10. The mouse typically tends to be a slower device to interact with. So anyway, that is just an example, and you can see it here. Okay, let's let's turn that off. All right. So that turns that off. So back to where we were. So the mouse capture. This is the routine that we'll be working on. let's go back to our syllabus here in a single pane and see where were we at. Oh, I did want to talk about slang just a little bit. Um, it's not trying to boost slang because slang is one of those things that will never be ready for prime time. In other words, it's a language I wrote 15 years ago, and my frustration with C and C++ and other languages that were coming about. It's kind of like man, things feel to me like they're going the wrong direction, and the languages don't quite do it for me. It's like, wow, I could be much more proficient if my computer language did this certain set of things and avoided doing these other crazy nutty things. Now I've been kind of down on object-oriented methodologies. I used to teach this stuff, and it's kind of like, all right, now I kind of got a new point of view, and slang became a necessity out of that. Um, I'm not saying oriented is bad, but it's not the only way to think about and develop software. It's absolutely what's mostly taught today, and people take it for granted that this is in fact, the only way. But there's a lot of other things. If you want to see an interesting person have an opinion about C++ and object-oriented programming methodologies, and check out Jonathan Blow, any of his casts and YouTube videos. He's pretty entertaining, but he's very much right on the mark. I've agreed with his opinions long before I actually knew them. So anyway, that's slang. So let's take a look at slang briefly. I just don't want to lose my place here because that tends to happen as I try to narrate and think at the same time. Me and chewing gum and dancing can't do it, you know? All right, so our little routine is iron mouse capture, and it's super tiny. Okay, and Slang's got a pretty simple syntax. It's not so different from C or C++. A lot of it comes from Ada and Pascal. So, and it's like every other language. It has structures and arrays and variables and loops and ifs and conditionals and functions with parameters, passed by value, passed by reference, et cetera, and switch statements, and which we'll employ. So as I work in Slang here in this one little routine, I don't think there'll be anything that'll look completely crazy to you, but you'll be kind of looking at, well, what language is that? And it's Slang. Um, function call in Slang, I can't return. One of the things is you're doing a function and you don't deal with the return type. Normally, it's really important. There's a return value for some reason. It's like, and you really ought to check it. Well, the operating system, set capture tends to do its function and return the same thing no matter what. So you know, there are some times when the return value just really doesn't have a value. It has a value, but it has no intrinsic value that you need to worry about. So you'll see this ignore return. So set capture, get client rec. These are operating system calls that return a value that I don't need. So I just ignore them. But I have to tell Slang, hey, I'm ignoring this on purpose. Not like in C or C++ where you can ignore a return value when actually it's potentially really important to you. Let's say, and here's a return, and you'll see, I tend to spread things out if we go up and look at some other functions here. Here's a switch statement, case statement. The dropout clause, other, you always got to have one in Slang. So if this switch happens to be on a enumeration type, this is kind of the catch-all. Where Slang is different, and I think it probably now aligns with Swift, I'm not really sure, is that Slang assumes that your case statement goes to the beginning of the next case statement, and then you're exiting the case. It's not like C++ where you need a break statement. So Slang offers the opposite, which is called fall through. I think I can type it out normally too. Yeah. So if I wanted this case statement to continue on with the next case statement, that's how you would do it. So small differences, but I think some of the point of Slang is that it's trying to keep me as a programmer out of trouble. Um, I don't have assignments inside of conditionals. That kind of malarkey, in my opinion, is dangerous, and it's hard to know. And thankfully now C and C++, double equals and equals. You've got you don't have to lint it. Your compiler will actually tell you, hey, is this really what you mean to do this assignment here, or are you trying to do uh, a mistyped conditional? What else were we going to point out about the language here? Oh, introspection. Okay, and we're going to use that. Um, and let's do that. Let me check my syllabus, see what else I was going to mention. Okay. Oh, yeah, let me point out the keymap files. Okay, so the keymap files have a format that's not dissimilar from Slang because there is a history, there's an ancestry of keymap files as well as menu files. Okay, they're very similar. And where they all come from is it goes way back to the day. A tool, data dictionary processor is the tool I wrote, and eventually that wasn't enough, so I had to write my own computer language, and that was Slang 1, and that was a grand success. And then it was not scaling very well, so I rewrote Slang 1 into Slang 2 using Slang 1, and I've kind of gone forward. And then coming next will be Copper. That's somewhat down the road. Its grammar has been pretty well defined and fleshed out, but it's too big and it's not ready to be used in iron or for writing iron in. CA2, welcome. Glad you're here. And so what I've done is I've taken Copper and chopped it down into zinc. So zinc is what iron uses for all of its setup files for key mappings, menus, macros, snippets when we get there, settings, any kind of settings. So it's all in the same similar format. Um, and if we look at the format, it's not readily apparent, but what's going on is there are, this is not a data format. This is a language. Key maps, in my mind, there's a lot of logic that needs to be expressed, and we can see that in the multi-select. I got a real nasty example here of how much logic you can put into just mapping your keys, making shortcuts. And this is multi-select. So here's a bunch of things that multi-select is doing. I'm not going to describe it here in any detail, but it's not really just about data. There is logic. And what I brought over from Copper into Zinc is just the very basic simplistic things. You can do expressions. So here's a not, and this is one big expression. It's a binary expression. Things get evaluated, and there's short circuit evaluation going on. I have moved over like if clauses and loops and all those other things, but those will probably come with time. So, as a seasoned programmer, you'll have quite a bit of customization capability, and we kind of, we don't want to get past customization and into hacking, or it's just and it's kind of like it's a gray area, and we don't know where to balance yet. So, again, that's kind of what this particular task today is about adding mouse clipping. It's like, well, we're not really sure what programmers want or need or how much customization they would like to have, but I'm pretty certain when it comes to constraining the mouse to a clip region, I find it useful in certain situations. Other programmers will find it hateful, or they'll find it useful if it works slightly differently. So we want to expose that. So anyway, that's just kind of the format that we're using it's about a language and not a data format. There's logic involved, and let me point it out. And this is not meant to be any kind of bashing of other tools. In fact, I like Sublime Text quite a lot. I don't use it because I'm sitting in Iron, um, but we think it's a really good tool. And I'll just give an example of the alternative. And here they do a nice thing where they bring up this is the default key mappings in Sublime Text, and then if you want to tailor, you just type your changes over here, or you cut and paste and put them over here into your user key map. And we're gonna do something similar. Actually, we have that already in there. Um, so anyway, here you can see what's going on here in Sublime Text is this is a data format. It's JSON or YAML or one of those formats, and and those are it's a data format. It's not a language, and you can see the effort that there is in describing logic. So it's kind of doing the same thing that we're doing. Is here it's looking for what's the value of setting auto match enabled, and here's an operator. It's saying it's got an operator. Here's an equals. Does it equal some operand true? So there's actually logic trying to be expressed in a data format. For us, our thing here with Iron is that we want to express logic in a language format, so it's not data. And there's a lot, and as programmers, it's kind of okay. We can figure this out, or we can figure this out down the road. Being expressed as in a language format will serve better. And again, it's based on zinc and copper and slang, which is pretty natural language. Nothing crazy or startling, or you don't have to learn a gargantuanly new syntax if you've worked with um, modern languages, or things that are just esoteric, like Lisp. Which always cracked me up. It's like so hard to program in. But so anyway, that's just one of the differences we hope that will pay off, is that customizing will be easier using a computer language rather than a data format. And again, it's I'm just using Sublime Text as an example, and certainly not trying to bash it. Notepad, just to say they don't have they have a different kind of customization that goes on. Let's see if I can find it. Tools? No, wait, what was it? Plugins? Oh gosh, what was it? It was under settings, import, shortcut mapper. Okay, same thing, different name and a different technique. So they've broken things up into, it's dialogue based. So you go in and you can make changes and change your hotkeys. Again, there's no logic involved. You just have to map to functionality that's provided, built in. Not saying that's a bad thing. That's really good and easy for beginners and novice programmers. But down the road, when you want to actually customize and involve some logic, and just short of hacking, this wouldn't necessarily meet the requirement. But this works well for folks and beginners, and this is pretty traditional. This is the way hotkeys have been set up for, well, decades and decades. And I don't want to tell you how many decades it has been for me. All right, back to our syllabus here as I lose track of what we're talking about. Okay, so what I want to do now is, like I said, we're going to add a parameter to mouse capture. And let me show you in a little bit more detail, what are the regions we want to limit the mouse to. What are the clipping regions? So windows, panes, and all that stuff. And I've got a demo partly prepared. Let me bring up, make sure it's built. Okay, so this is Iron's build system, the not ready for prime time build system. And here's Iron. This is the development environment. And again, I don't believe you can hear the audio. We'll increase this text size. Res MK, double Z. Glad you're here. I'm John, Dark Viking, working on Iron, our 3D text editor. Glad you can join us. Let's take a quick coffee break, everybody. Hope you brought your own. Okay, and the coffee break is come to a close. So I just want to point out for your edification how this is the development build. This is iron in its unstable as we're going to change it mode. You can tell by the little D, it actually stands for debug, or the white background, or even the red highlighting. I tend to use this old fashioned rainbow color format I have never matured from. That comes from the brief editor. So that's how you can tell the difference whether I'm working in the stable build or in the debug build. And so what was I going to show you here? Let me go back to our syllabus. There was a point. Yes, I was going to turn a bunch of things off so we can see regions. So we go to the command, we're going to turn the pipes toggle, this steampunk look. We're going to turn this off, the theme, turn that off. Okay, so you can see all the pipes have gone. We just got square panes. So this is a pane. The red pane is the command palette. The minimap is in its own pane. The text is in a text pane. The numbers are in a number pane. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn off all the text and stuff. So let's go to, yeah, it's iron pane, and I think it's probably going to look for the word demo. There it is. Okay, and so this routine, you can see some more Slang. Let me just run through this real quick. So Slang is task-based. There's, if you have a multiple core machine, things are being rendered by multiple cores. There's a video game underneath. That's my background. I was a lead programmer at LucasArts and worked at Dark Horse and made a living writing shareware stuff back when Doom was popular. Yeah, I just kind of aged myself, right? Anyway, so I've been writing software and video games for a long time, and so it's natural for me to put it under there. But anyway, when iron comes to render a pane, one of these guys, this function here is run by the task system. You can see I use lots of metals here. The tasking system is known as brass, and part of the file, it involves part of the file system as well. Not important, but I just wanted to point that out. So what's happening is make sure we have a pane. If not, this task, yeah, it does success. I know it's meant to throw up a warning. It actually does in the debug build. Checking some other things, making sure the opacity is greater than 0. That's kind of important. Or there's nothing to render. This pane has to be active, so there's a bunch of tests, and you can see in Slang that it's pretty natural stuff going on, right? Just a bunch of checks. Here it's checking the height of the viewport to make sure that the pane hasn't accidentally been squeezed down. Is pane completely obscured? And you can see I go way off to the right. I don't really care. Iron is such that, it goes out there. And if my checks are so huge, I need to pay attention to it. Just a personal flavor. I don't care how far out I go. Like I said, iron is set up. You can put 8,000 characters on a single line, and it doesn't really care, and that's arbitrary. You can make it as much as you want. So anyway, there's a bunch of checks to see if this pane is actually visible on the screen. And then it says, okay, OpenGL, hey, we're going to give a start. Start doing some graphics work, clear the errors just in case. And this is stuff that turns off in the release build. These are some debug utilities that I've added onto GL. Getting some color, and here's the opacity. So in our window pane view hierarchy, they all have a different opacity. So the lowest level thing, the view, and this is what we're going to be working on, has an opacity, and it's which one is the minimum. Is the pane, has the pane dissolved and faded away? The text then needs to fade, and the number view needs to fade as well. So we're grabbing the minimum opacity, and then we're painting the background, and then we're moving on to from the background to, here it's this is all kind of theme stuff. Drawing selections and carrots and anchors in the text, and on and on and on, and pipes, and comes down to the Christmas presents and snow being rendered and all these other silly things that we have in there. And here's the pipes. I just turn this off. Pipes toggle equals false. All right, I did that in the debug build. So anyway, the demo, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn all this stuff off. We're not going to execute this. We're going to circumvent this. And all I'm going to do, and you can see iron, you can see me in production using iron, is we're just going to paint the pane outlines and at the snapshot of the pane information. And then we need to, once it's painted the outlines, GL needs to finish. Anybody who's used OpenGL, it's kind of like, well, you want to avoid finish because this flushes the OpenGL queue, and there can be a relatively long pause as all the commands have to get shoved over to the GPU and actually implemented. In a rendering situation or a task situation where things are being rendered in parallel, to make sure everything's ready for the next not the next task, but when they come back together to paint stuff over all the panes, there's some global things, the menu is an example. Everything underneath had better be done, and that's why there's a GL finish here in the tasking. And then we go back and we tell the tasking system, hey, we're successfully painted the pane, even though we've only just painted the outlines of things. Okay, so that's what we're working on. Now I'm going to compile this, and it's going to say, hey, I don't know what demo is. Okay. And there Slang is compiled, and it says, could not resolve variable pane. And if I hit F4, it'll take me to that line of code. Okay, so it doesn't know what demo is. And demo is going to be a flag that we can turn on and off. And so what I need to do in Slang is create this variable, and then I'm going to expose it so we can turn things on and off. Expose it in terms of introspection or reflection, whichever word you like to use. So let's go to the top of the file, and I tend to organize things. Here's some, excuse me. Okay, so these are not system-wide global variables, but they're modules. So we're going to add a Boolean. We're going to call it demo, and its initial value is false. And we add this attribute. Now Slang has a bunch of attributes that you can add on, and there's other things like no free, no IO, stuff like that, default on read. There's a bunch of stuff. So the language takes care of a lot of things underneath. And this one, CLI, is an old term that most folks or younger folks may not even know what it is, and it stands for command line interface. Okay, and the idea of this attribute is to say that, oh, I can change this value when I start up the application. So if you're in an iron prompt, I'm not an iron prompt. Boy, that was a slip, a Darwinian slip. If you wanted to say, iron demo equals false, that's what you can do. Okay, so that's exposing this variable to the command line, and it can be set to a value. That was one of the big things in Slang, was to make this introspection possible. And you can do that for strings and real types and integers. And then enumeration values never got implemented, but I'm going to use that now. So CLI makes demo available to the command line interface. And let's compile this. I still have a frog in my throat. Okay, and there's the debug. And web ep, glad you're here. Please, folks, share. This stream in Iron, our beta is coming up here next month, and we want to get it out to folks so they can give it a shot, so you can do it. Let me just point out our website, which is also under construction. All right, but take a look, and that's where you'll find a big blue button at some point that says something like download beta. And it'll be in a prototype stage, and we'll have a forum. It's getting put together now, where we can get comments back from you, and we can have an exchange of ideas. So that compiled. Let's start up our debug. Okay, and I'm going to bring up our command palette. Now, demo is now active because the command palette makes use of the command line interface introspection. Well, that's a lot of big words. Okay, so we can now make demo equal to true, and what's going to happen is none of the stuff in the pane is going to be rendered except for the outlines. All right, well, that worked. So now you can see a little bit easier what are the regions that we can restrict our mouse to. Well, let me just put that back on. So this is a pane. This outside region is a pane. And you can see the minimap region here. This is the text pane, and that's the number line. What line number are we on, region? Or they're actually called views. And then there's a big one that, you can't see it because the lines are on top of each other, and that's the pane. And it's the whole pane. So if I bring up, let's do multi-pane like this. So now there are two panes, and I'm going to turn the demo off. Actually, let's just restart. And that CLI will get resaved or restarted. Okay, and I'm just going to come over here in the right pane, and we'll bring up one of my favorites. That's not what we want. Iron command. All right, I use this one a lot. And then we'll turn the demo back on. Here, let's set up a false so we can just get to it easily. Because typing without seeing what you're doing, a real pain. Okay, if I go down, turn it back on, there we go. Okay, so we have different panes here, different regions. And let's turn things back on. And I can also do minimap toggle equals false. Okay, so the minimap slides off. And let's make it true. Let's have one there. Turn true, false. Let's turn the demo on. Okay. And here I'm going to turn the minimap is off. Turn it back on. Okay, and you can see that's the minimap view, and that's what we're going to try to constrain the mouse into this tiny area here. All right. We don't want to save that one. That was a mistype. Okay, so that's using Iron in production. This is what I do all day long. I added a new variable. Turn things off just so we can see them. I'll go ahead and leave this in. And now let's go back to our syllabus. We'll close that down. And that was just an example of Iron in action. So let's have an official coffee break, okay? Okay, let me grab this note here. This is what we're going to start now. Okay, so mouse capture or Iron mouse. Where was it here? Iron mouse. Let's do a find in files. Iron mouse. This is the routine we're changing. Is this guy right here? Our tiny little thing. And we want to pass in an enumeration value to this function. And that's going to say, well, what pane do you want to constrain to? Or which view, actually. Is it Well, that's a good question. Is it a view? Is it the pane? Is it the window? Let's not deal with views just yet. Let's constrain the mouse so it'll right now by default when you hold the key down, you can't go outside the app, right? Okay. Let's make it so you can't go outside the pane or the text pane, the text view or something like that. Okay. Um, Now I haven't done this demo, so you can watch along and see how much trouble a seasoned engineer can get into. It's just solving puzzles all day long, and that's what needs to be fun. Code, puzzles, defects, bugs, whatever they're called. You don't want to make new ones. You want to avoid them, but we tend to make our own puzzles, and we'd like to grab our humor from something else. Um, so I know I'm going to need an enum type, and I haven't created it. We're going to do that together. And I know it's going to clip the mouse to a region. So let's say it's a mouse clip enum type, okay? And we're going to call it clip. All right. And we're going to do a switch on it. So we're going to switch on clip, do a switch on clip, and we're going to make a case. And the case statement is like, well, is this stuff? Okay, what have we been doing up to this point? And this will just be the default. And what it's been is it clips to the client space, the Windows window client space from here down to the lower right. Doesn't include the borders, the drop down menus, or any of that stuff. Okay, so that's been its default, and we're trying to provide functionality beyond the default. So this one would be something like mouse clip client space. Okay, we'll just say client. And then another case is, whoops, I'm getting mixed in my languages here, is we want to clip to different views. How about the pane? We just want to clip to the pane. So we'll call this pane. I don't know what that's going to look like just yet. And then another one is we want to clip to, say, the text, and then just to the line numbers, the stuff over here in the green. Or just we want to, what we really ultimately want to get to is constrain the mouse to the minimap region. So, that's what we're after. Okay, let's undo. I've got lots of undo in iron. There it is. Let's go forward again. Okay, so there's the minimap. And then in Slang, always have to have an other clause. And my typical other clause is unknown clip, and I'll just put it out there. So, and I, this is rote habit, is just always having an other clause, a catch-all. Because if I go somewhere down the line, in my future self, I try to plan ahead a little bit because, memory's short and gets shorter as I'm, doing a lot more. The amount of programming I've done continues to add up, so memory gets short. I don't have a lot of space left up inside my noggin. Let's see. So yeah, I'm sorry, I cracked myself up a little bit. Whatever makes you smile. Anyway, so my normal is to go ahead and set up an other clause that will say, hey, here's something I don't know what it is, but apparently the programming language knows what it is. If I have, you switch on this new enumeration type, and I add one down the road, and I've used it in, say, 50 different places, and I forget to take into account whatever the new thing is I added. I want the other clause and Slang to come and yell at me. Hey, dumbass, you forgot this case statement, and that's, to me, that's really important. I don't want things to just get forgotten. So that's part of what Slang was designed for. Was like, pretty sure you didn't mean this. And as a debug build, I want you to yell and yell loud. That's what I want my language to do. Is like, this is likely a defect, a bug, a puzzle you don't want. And that was a big part of why I wrote and still write in Slang. So we're going to convert this to a string. It's an enumeration type, and the value is clip. And then also we can do return action. Going to have a return type, and the result from an action is, in this case, we're just going to say it's a warning. There's different kind of results values, but it's basically true or false. It's basically a binary. Okay, so this is our updated function, and we don't have an enumeration type yet. We haven't defined that, so if I compile this, it's going to say, hey, I don't know what the heck that is. There it is, could not resolve. It tends to stream off. I'm using very large type for me right now, so the stream is readable by folks out there. Okay, so mouse clip enum, no matches. Okay, can't resolve the variable base type. So it doesn't know what this is. So let's go make that thing, but I'm going to need a copy of this stuff. This is our enumeration values, and we'll go up to the top of the file here. I tend to clump some of this stuff together, but I could certainly put it anywhere in the file. I just have certain places and habits that come about from my use of Ada and Pascal and stuff, and I still kind of lean on those, and there's value to it. I can certainly make this a much more localized enumeration. So here you can see another enumeration type, and what I'm going to do is make our new one, enum mouse clip enum. And so here I've got all of our stuff, and this is where this is going to be a great example of the power of multi-select inside of Iron. Okay, so here I'm selecting a bunch of lines, and I'm just want to make an enumeration type out of these guys, right? So this is just a column selection, and I'm just going to back up. Okay. But now I got these silly semicolons. It's kind of like, well, those don't need to be semicolons. Those actually should be commas, but they're not nicely aligned to the column. So what we can do with multi-select is we'll break this column select into multiple selections, and we do that by holding the Control Shift key. That's a multi-select set of modifiers for Iron, and so Control Shift M, and you can see here that the color has changed. Okay, and we've got using the power of 3D to display ramps, so you can see that they're multi-selected, and it still feels like a column selection. But if I unlatch, in other words, I can take multi-selections and do individual things, or deselect stuff, cancel that cursor, and then I can latch and continue on. There's just a lot of power there. So that's kind of a sideline. Let's undo, and you'll note that selections are in our undo stack. That's what we call persistent selections. It's important. Okay, I'm just going to cancel those, not use the undo. So here, I'm going to do that column selection, converting it to multi-select, and then I'm going to do a nice little trick here, Shift Tab. Now Shift Tab tabs backwards. It's just erasing spaces to tab spots or white space back to the previous tab stop, and it'll go as far back as it can until it counters the first character. Shift Tab shouldn't erase characters, right? So Shift Tab, Shift Tab, Shift Tab. You can see this one's already met its end. Shift Tab, now all of those are there, and then I can just hit backspace. All right, and then I can hit comma, nicely formatted. The power of multi-select in action. So there's our new enumeration type. Okay, and hey, everything compiled. That's great. Let's go down to our routine again. Mouse clip enum. Since this is the only place we've used it. Okay, so there's our switch statement. That is our new function, and our default is to look for something called client. or pane, or text, or line number, or minimap. And that's what this parameter is going to specify is what is the constraint. And I realize now too, it's like, wow, we're going to make this parameter, we're going to have to introspect it, make it reflect it to the outside world. So the key map, so what we can do in the key map, and we're going to look for our routine mouse.capture. Okay, so we're going to put in, excuse me, was it window? Oh, I've already forgotten. No, it's client. Okay, we're going to put in the word client. So that's what we're wanting to do, is we're going to constrain the mouse, do the capture, and specify client. That's the default action already. And then we'll be able to specify pane or text or line num. Now here's the current name for this enumeration type that's available to the outside world is mouse clip client. It's kind of long. So for this to be valid, this would be mouse clip client. And it's like, who wants to type all that crap? You can if you want. It's very specific, but we want something shorter. So in Slang, we can add what are called shortcuts. Okay, so a shortcut looks like this. Shortcut equals quotes client. Okay, and we want to do this for the other pane. So let's do multi-select again here, and let's actually cancel that one. Alt tab over here, erase those guys, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, place these guys over here somewhere. All right, and I'm just doing a column selection here. Shortcut equals quotes, and now I want the quotes multi-select, shift tab, alt tab, I mean, no, it is shift tab. All right, put quotes. We don't need that bottom one, or comma. So that should compile now. Oh, it didn't. All right, what did I do? Kicks out all internal binary iron mouse. This is one of the quirks and where Slang is not ready for prime time. But I know what this is, and I know the solution. And the solution is what's happening. Just to describe it to you, is this debug message in all its 40,000 lines of, hey, this is a list exception, and basically iron crashed and says, hey, I'm crashing and I'm telling you where I was. And this internal is, it's an internal error saying, oh, this should never ever happen. And what it's trying to do is the compiler is loading in different modules, and because this is a change and it's not a global enum, it gets a little bit confused. And so the fix is not that difficult, and I seldom come across this when I'm working. So I'm going into, this is my project, Dark Viking Software DBS, going into, that's the source code. In the Slang binary, this is kind of like an intermediate file. The Slang compiler makes a intermediate binary. Where is it at? Slang bin. Nope, that's wrong. I clicked on the wrong thing. Oh, I need to go to iron first. Those are the libraries. Slang bin, there it is. So our module is ironmouse.slang. So iron mouse, we just want to nuke this guy. And this is one of those quirks that's in the language, and it's kind of like, well, is it worth my time to fix the quirk in my compiler, or does it happen rarely enough that I can just go in and do this, which is delete? And in this case, this is easier because it's kind of rare. It's like I got to optimize what I spend my time on as a developer, and quirks and bugs and puzzles are just kind of a natural part of what software is about. You want to minimize the number of defects, but you also have to spend your time in the right place. So there iron compiles, and then there's dependencies, and they're compiling up. Oh, what did we get now? This is good. Mouse clipping undeclared, blah, 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 mouse.cpp. So why is it undeclared? Yeah, this is a similar kind of thing. Oh yeah, okay. So I actually have kind of quirk on top of quirk. So again, similar fix. Let's just go ahead and we'll delete that. So this just, it kind of rarely happens, you know, my adding new enumeration types that are local as opposed to global. And it's the global local thing that the Slang compiler is getting a little bit confused on. So I'm just going to go in and delete the header file. Doesn't get updated properly in this particular situation. So we're going to delete that one. All right. Let's see what happens this time. Nope, that still didn't fix it. Well, we'll just do the horrible thing. Rebuild. Okay, good time for a coffee break. Sign, join the room. Nina 520, welcome. Both of you, I'm glad you're here. My name's John, Dark Viking. Dark Viking Software is our company, and Iron is the product, and our beta is coming up very soon. Next month. We're slated, and keep this a secret, probably for the 11th of June. That's assuming I can get all the pieces put together and we can get our website tailored properly. But we really want you to come join us, give Iron a spin, share it with your friends, and then give us some feedback in the forum so we can, one, fix things, but also get, you know, everybody's fabulous grand ideas. All right, now what's going on? It's still the same menu logic. That's really wicked. Why is that? Ah, okay. This is a programmer error, and I know exactly what this is now. Okay, this deserves just a tiny bit of explanation. So what's happening is mouse clip enum is it's not global. It's local to this module, and I'm using it for a function that is global. And this is just kind of a quirk that I've never bothered to go back into Slang to fix. And I got a frog. So what's happening is in the debug build, you can say, hey, I can't link up the binary. The intermediate representation, when it's going on to these other modules, is saying, hey, I don't know what this is. And so it's not compiling correctly. Or, you know, Slang just says, hey, you better fix this because I don't know what you mean. And what it is I've declared menu clip enum as a local to this module, but I'm declaring this function as global. So Slang goes, well, in my global scope, I don't know what mouse clip enum is. You better tell me. Let's see if Iron Mouse Capture is actually, in fact, let me bring up this debug pane here. It's more what I'm used to working in. So I can see the debug file and the status and my searches. So I'm going to do a find in files. Here's our command palette, FIF, find in files. And I'm going to look for Iron Mouse Capture. All right. And see if it is in fact used outside of this module. Now why did that go to results there? That wasn't exactly expected. Normally they show up over here. Let's just try that again. Sure enough, that's where they belong. Okay, so find in file results. This is our comments. Here's the function itself. Here's where it's being introspected. And I'm scrolling on the right, and this pane is tethered to the results and showing the files as I move down. It is being used outside, so somewhere along the line in this routine, what is it? Excuse me again. As I said, I'm not a professional streamer or radio announcer. Oh, okay. I see what it's being used for. This is the, you know, Iron's backup. It has a hard-coded keymap system. In other words, if the keymap file gets completely buggered, it's got to have something to fall back on so you can still edit and fix the keymap file. So there's some mappings going on here. That's where Iron Mouse becomes global. but our enum type is not. So let's go back to our enum type, and it's here at the top of this file. Close this down, and we'll just make it global. Let's see if that fixes it. Now I might be back into that other quirk where I actually had to delete the binary again. So, and that's in fact, I believe, the case. Again, like I said, this just kind of rarely happens, and geez, it's happening live in front of people. But that's programming, you know. It's like things aren't meant to work, and when you show them to people, they're really not meant to work. Or at least that's when it happens. So fixing problems and bugs, defects, puzzles, that's our job. That's what we do. This is looking better. Okay, so things fail for a reason. And what do we have this time? No function matches found for iron mouse capture. Ah, okay, so that global thing, we've changed it. And now we need to go there. Not surprisingly, this one doesn't have a parameter. So it's the parameter we want to put in there. We want to put in, check that out, mouse clip client. That's our default, right? That's what it's been. Let's keep this the same. Mouse clip client. Compile this up. All right, so there is a reason it was global. That's just a warning of a routine that's not used. And then it's C++ counterpart. Now Slang, you know, it's a compiler / translator. It creates C++, and it's really kind of like, you know, pretty boggish C++, and it generates millions of lines of code because Slang is doing quite a bit more underneath. And you know, since I nuked everything, it's rebuilding, and it takes a little bit of time. But Slang exports functionality that's just huge, and then it all gets optimized away. And that's why there's going to be Copper, the next language at some point. One of the reasons. So here we go. It's generating the code, and it's getting close. You can see all the modules and the module names. You know, it's kind of like, what is flying text? Well, you've been seeing flying text. That's the snow curtain is when things go down. And here's some of the built-in compilers for the command palette. Brass Manager, that's the tasking manager, Brass file system. And there's the debug. It's actually built. Now in the background, I'm going to go ahead and have the release or the non-debug build in the background. So while that's going on, we don't need this file anymore. We'll close that down and go back to our function. Now, is everybody taking an unofficial coffee break? Because I'm going to have one right now. All right. Okay, so now what we need to do is now that we've compiled things and we've added our new parameter to the keymap file, the word client. Okay, let's go over to, let's run the build we just did. And you can't hear the audio, and I'm so sad you can't, because it's kind of funny. Let's turn the pipes back on, just because they're kind of fun. You can see the earth move. Oh wait, let's do one other thing. This is kind of fun. We'll turn on the sniper scope. Sniper equals true. Okay, so we have a magnifying glass, and you can do a lot of stuff with a magnifying glass. It's like, how many text editors have a magnifying glass? And that comes up with a question. It's like, why are you making a 3D text editor, and what is that? That's so you can have cool little graphics like this. Here is, you know, our steampunk globes, and you can see the clouds in the earth. And yeah, I spent a tiny little bit of time just to make something that'll hopefully make you and me chuckle just here and there. All right. So anyway, that's kind of fun. And why is it called Sniper? Because, you know, what video game doesn't have a sniper scope? You know, we may use that as a sniper scope in the future, but not today. So let's turn that off. All right. So where were we? We're going to go down to a single pane here, and we've added our client, And here it's complaining about something. Let's compile it. You can see the syntax highlighting. It's kind of yellowish, so it's probably a warning. Let's compile. We hit F7. So the keymap files are compiled. They're the Zinc language. They're written in Zinc. And I hit F7 to compile. And it said, oh, that's tiny. Let's make that bigger. That's still tiny. And you can't hear the sound again. HAL 9000 is telling me there's giving me a warning. So what is it? F4. Let's see what it says. Parameter 1 is unexpected. Client will be ignored. So it's going to capture the mouse. It's just saying that this parameter is not yet recognized. So I'm not sure why. Let's see if we can figure out. There's definite error. You can see that as we type, things are actually being compiled in the background. But why is client not recognized? Ah, okay. And it's actually kind of lucky that that it is ignoring this parameter, because we never changed the signature on this action. And this is part of the introspection why this manual process that I have in Iron really isn't the best or the coolest thing just yet. It's manual, and I forgot to do a thing. So let's go back. And what's happened is we added this parameter to this function called Iron Mouse Capture. So if we look where Iron Mouse Capture is registered or introspected outward, there is a signature, and the signature, is the parameter list. And in Slang and Iron, signature actually includes the return type and things like that. So what I need to do is tell Iron that, hey, I'm passing in an enumeration type. And so I need to change this void to enum. And then I need to tell it what is the enumeration type. And I think this one has a pointer. Let's go to another module. It's what's a big one? Iron edit. Oh, that one's always good. Cut and paste. This is where it kind of comes in handy. Okay, so here is a signature that has a pointer, a boolean, and an enum. So let's do this. Find in files, signature, enum. We'll just find one that has an exact match. That's the one we're changing now. Here's one, happens to be an edit. That's not what we want. Let's just find one that's just enum. Scan down our results file here. Is there one? Oh, I wonder if I even have that as a signature. So that would incur a little bit more work, but that's fine. That's why we're paid the big bucks, right? Sure enough, I don't think that is such a thing. Here where the signatures are all defined, and guess what? There isn't one. All right. Wait, there is one. Let's go back to our results file, find in file. Where did I use it? I must have used it somewhere because it exists. I bothered to code it up. I bet it was used, and it is no longer. So let's close the results file there, and we're just going to steal the pieces we need from another one. So here we've got a signature. It has a pointer, a boolean, and an enum. So the enum stuff is here. And again, this kind of introspection, I don't do a great deal of it. So you can see me kind of fumbling around just a tad. Cut and paste can be our friend. You just got to use it carefully. And you have to add it to the right function. Okay, so a little bit of explanation. So we've added a parameter, an enum type, and the enum type we've added is this just doesn't quite feel right to me. We need to tell it which enum it is. That is a function type. This is where kind of narrating while thinking and coding gets a little tough and a little bit difficult. So I'm going to be, not narrating here for just a second. Steve F., welcome aboard. Glad you're here. let's see, string to enum ordinal, string to select. Ah, okay, this is what we want. The select type, we have a different enum that we want to do, and it's mouse clip enum. That's why it was kind of hidden from me. Mouse clip enum. And its bad value, its default value is mouse clip client. Okay, so what this is saying is to provide to the introspection system is you have to tell it three things, and these are two functions that are created by Slang, the compiler, where it can convert an enumeration type to and from these two functions here. Yeah, Slang sets these up and provides these as built-in functions to convert from an enumeration type to its string equivalent and the opposite. And then the other thing needs to be provided is a default value or an invalid value. So we know that things are invalid. So we need to add one. Okay, we're going to add that to our enumeration value. If we compile now, it's going to say, hey, I don't know what this is. There it goes, unresolved. Mouse clip unknown is in fact unknown. So let's go up to our enumeration type, and we're going to add that, and I typically use the 0 component as the unknown. Now we don't need to expose a shortcut because to do that on purpose would be kind of silly. This is just in case there is something crazy going on underneath, or the keymap file is just set up incorrectly. The introspection system has to provide some kind of bailout value. It's like, okay, so we've just made one up, unknown. So let's compile that. Okay, link things up. Stretch. Oh, I can tell I've already been sitting for a long time. Part of my normal thing is to get up as an old man and to walk around the room or run down the street and back. Not really. Okay, so let's run our change and see what the keymap looks like. Okay, so now you can see that capture client, it's understood. So if we, well, now what? Oh, okay. As we change things, well, now what? Here we don't have a parameter. Okay, so Iron Zinc compiler is telling us, it's too few parameters. Found one, expected one, and then it tells me what the signature is. Signature enum. You can see this over here on the right. I'm just going to compile this crazy bunch of times. And normally, like I said, I will have this window open and I can see these things, the actual error message is down here. Okay, too few parameters, and I tend to spread out quite a bit on as many monitors as I can get my hands on. And I use a smaller font. So this is all kind of scrolling off the screen. So anyway, the fix is really simple. F4 to take us to where the error is. Wait for that to drop out of the way, and we just need to add our default. Let's compile again. Yahoo! Okay, so now when we pick the mouse will get captured to the client area, and that's been the default action. All right. And let's demo that. Okay, so I'm holding the mouse down and I can't get outside of the client area, right? All right. So let's change the key mapping to one of the new ones that doesn't map to any action yet. For example, pain. Okay. Now, the key map system recognizes pain because we told it to. And if I compile, but the code, if we go back over here and we look at the code for our routine, is pain is doing nothing. So it's not actually going to clip the cursor. So we're testing out whether this other enumeration type, and so it shouldn't capture the mouse. now that we've put pane in there and we've compiled it. Okay, so I'm holding the mouse down and I'm driving left, and sure enough, the mouse has left the building. It has actually left the client area, which was the old default. So we've added some flexibility for programmers right now, where you can get out and past, and that'll be important later on when you can drag file tabs and start up new sessions, actual whole new sessions of Iron. So we're getting there. We're making good progress. Let's expand that out and cancel. And just Wimatic, since this stuff is working well, let's go ahead and check it all in. And Thorvald, very cool. Me being a Norwegian, I enjoy that name. Where do you come by that name? And welcome. Okay, you can't see what I'm doing here, but I'm checking software and partway through adding mouse clip enum to mouse capture. Maybe the names are wrong. Action. All right, and I'm using Perforce as my software configuration management system. Let's see here. Okay, so now what we need to do, and I'm going to check this out again. This is Perforce Iron asking me. It's like, hey, this is read only. Do you want me to check it out? Absolutely. Okay. And so what we're going to do is we're going to now, okay, combine to the client region. And we're just going to do some cut and paste and let the optimizer do its thing. All right, and this one we're going to the pane view. So the pane view is this, it's kind of this whole area that you can see in when we're looking at two panes. So we're going to confine the mouse to one pane or the other, but you can't click in this one and drag the mouse over here. Okay, this is just adding functionality and more so for the future. Okay, this brings up our old question of, well, what is the reference system? What are the coordinate systems that are being employed? Because we have OpenGL, we have the Windows system, which puts 0, 0 in the upper left corner, and the client space is up here, and Y goes down, X to the right. We're also dealing with screen space, where screen space is 0, 0 in the upper left, and Y goes down. But I'm in a multi-monitor situation, so this could actually be a minus number, the upper left-hand corner of this monitor. It gets a little goofy, so you gotta keep on our toes and make sure that we clip the mouse to the proper region that we really intend. So the pane view has a viewport. Each area, each view has a viewport, and it is in, I believe it is in, and we'll check that, OpenGL space, and with 0, 0 down here in the client region, OpenGL with Y going up and X to the right, and Z coming out of the screen, points to my chest. So what's going on here is we're capturing the mouse. We've pressed the button, we capture the mouse, and then we're getting, the default action is to get the rectangle, the client region, the Windows client region, everything but the border and the drop-down menu. Okay. And then we're converting each of the upper left and lower right extents to screen space. Okay, because that's what we have to pass back to Windows, is we have to pass a rectangle, which is composed of 2 points. I think it's upper left and lower right, and we have to pass that back to this operating system function called clip cursor. That's what keeps things confined. So we know our result has to come back into screen space. But we need to find out what are the dimensions of this pane? What is the viewport? And well, we have to get the pane, the current viewport then would be something iron pane current. So that's the current pane. That's what everything's attached to, the file tabs, the views, the individual views. And recall, I showed you the individual views. Let's do this again. Demo equals true. Okay. So each one of these outlined rectangles is a view. Okay. So I need to go get the dimensions of the view, and the view we want is for the pane, and we want to do it for the current pane, which one's ever active. And the way you can tell things are active, which one's active, is it's highlighted. You know, these pipes that have just exploded, they're lit brighter than these pipes over here. You can see how I click. That's how you can tell. And the cursor is bright. You know, watch the cursor here. As I click over here, it dims. Okay, so you're getting subtle clues. And it might be too subtle, but we'll leave it at that. Okay, so first thing we need to do, and there's such a case where it's like, oh, there are no panes on the screen. You know, that is possible in iron. So if there's, you know, no pane, no current pane, then I don't have any way to know. We actually want to constrain this down in the case statement. It's kind of like, oh, I know what we're going to do. We're going to do this different. Let's put it back up here. So if there is no pane, it's like, well, what do we want it to do? We still need it to capture the mouse. We still need it to execute this instruction right here. But if there's no pane, there's no gain. There's also no view. We don't know what view to work in. So what we can do is we can just change clip and say, okay, hey, use the default, which is mouse clip client. All right, so when there's no pane, just change the passed in parameter to something that will make some sense, which is constrain it to the default. Now, probably, you know, it's one of those, okay, that's one way to handle it. Another way to handle this is to say, hey, I don't know what you mean. Type out a warning message, and then return action result warning. Okay, you can do that. Oh, that's a good feature I don't have. There we go, lowercase. Okay, let's do something like that and just say, hey, what you wanted me to do, I really can't do it. It's not a fatal thing or anything like that, but I don't know what you really meant. You know, as the software talks to me, the programmer, you know, we have relationship. We definitely have a, almost kind of a, well, it's definitely a two-way relationship. Coffee break. All right, so SJ Pablo, you're back. Thank you. Appreciate you coming back and taking a look. Just to catch you up, we're changing the iron mouse capture system and seeing iron actually being used in production. You know, this is really more how I use it in really tiny font and multiple panes and things like that. Okay, so what we've done is we've caught a potential error. It's like when there is no current pane, we set the clip to the default, and we're saying the default is clip to the client region. So that takes care of that case. Now, what we can do is we know what pane we're in. What is the view we want to work in? We don't care about the client rect. Okay. That's not what we're working with. We might need it for conversion. We'll see. So we're not converting the client rect to screen spaces, and that's what clip cursor needs. So we're just going to get rid of that. We'll leave rect around, and we need to populate rect with values. let's find, and that's a Windows thing. So let's go into Slang 2 Live Windows, and we'll look for the word rect. There it is. So it's just 4 integers. Left, top, right, bottom. Okay, and we need to populate those in screen coordinates. All right. Don't need this one anymore. Let's close edit. Just closing a few things. Excuse me. Now that we know we have our pane, we can get our view. So we're going to set up a variable which is iron view rect, our view, whatever it is. And the view we're going to get is from iron pane current. And I think it's called pane view, or it's view pane. I'm pretty certain it's going to be not what I typed here. It's going to be view pane, but let's compile this. This is a feature of Slang. I just kind of want to demonstrate, as well as how it works well with iron. Okay, so it's going to compile, and it says choke pane view, and again in smaller font, all this shows up nice and neat. Pane view is not a field of iron pane rec, so this is a record, and there's nothing called pane view. And if I hit F4, it's going to take me to the line of the error. There it is. And if I hit F4 again, it's going to take me to the record definition. Okay, that's pretty handy. So here's down here in the, I'll scroll it up. So this is the pane record. And there's a lot of stuff in here. And one of them is not the thing I typed. Okay, so in Slang, there are some default constructs or built-in constructs, doubly linked lists. So this is some of the linkage. We've got pointers to files. This is a shared pointer. There's some file attributes, things to do and not do during I/O. Here's the file tabs that's associated. That's the stuff up here. It's tied to a pane. Okay. Here's our selections. When we're doing multi-selects, this is what's keeping track of that. Oh, panes are used for different things, pop-ups, and that's the usage, whether it's active and whether the selection is latched. Sync point stuff, flying text stuff, some dimensions on how wide should this be and how wide should the minimap be. So we can say something like minimap width equals, I don't know what the default is. It's probably like 150, say 300. Let's just try 300. So we can make our mini map incredibly wide or ridiculously small. let's do 1,000. Yeah, so that's a pretty monstrous mini map. It's probably something like 130. I'm sure we can find it. It doesn't really matter. It's whatever flavor of the moment is. That's just kind of nice and easy from the command palette to change that stuff. Okay, caret information. Here's our views. This is what I was looking for. So in a pane, there's a linked list of views, and you can add views and subtract views and add new regions, and clipping our mouse to regions we don't know about probably is going to need more parameters on the function we've been working on. But this is what we're after, view pane, okay? There's our text window, there's our line number, there's our minimap, and ultimately this is the one where we're kind of constraining to. Okay, so if I hit F4, it'll take me back to the original error. So I've just spelled this wrong, and I knew I had. Let's compile this. It's not happy with that. What's it saying? Oh wait, this is not a. This is. Oh, it's not percent. I don't use percents. Okay, so if we go back just for what was that? What did I do? Okay, these are actually records. These are not pointers to records. This is not a pointer, and I was trying to assign a pointer, a record reference to a pointer, and that's what it was complaining about. So I had to say, okay, in Slang, this becomes a pointer reference. not something, it's probably something you've seen in, C++ or C. And that was the error. So now I've got the view. This is where I want to constrain my mouse to. And inside view, there is, there is a viewport. So let's just get a copy of the viewport. It's not all optimized or anything like that. Let's just say equals view, up arrow, viewport. I think that's what it is. Let's see how my memory serves. Field missing. Oh, I gotta give it a name. All right, viewport. And you can kind of see I'm a little bit OCD about horizontal spacing. People think it might be a waste of time, but when you're in a virtual space editor, horizontal alignment is really cool, really important, and it serves a greater value. All right, let's let that compile up. Okay. And as you can see, I do things in teeny tiny steps. And, it comes from years of work. I don't know if that works for other people. I don't go out to 20 different files, make gargantuan changes, and then try to debug the crap out of it. I just tend to go in teeny tiny little steps. So it's like, not for every statement like I've been doing, but part of the reason I'm doing it at such fine grain is just to make errors and show you how iron as a tool and Slang as a language work together. And that was an unofficial coffee break. Certainly drink at your own pace, whatever that is. Let's take a look here at the chat. I just want to make sure, SJ Pablo, you're back again. Thanks. You were just here. Sharpa Doggy, Sharpa Doge. I'm not even going to try. Ensign, welcome back again. So I'm glad you're all here. We'll continue on. I'm just demonstrating Iron, our 3D text editor, using it in production mode so you can see how I use the tool and how it really does in fact work well, and can be customized to fit like a glove. So we're adding more customization functionality to the keymap file. All right, so I got a viewport, and the viewport is going to be the extent of the pane from here to here. And let's just do that. Okay, I'm going to compile this up, and I'm going to start up our big gorilla. You recognize this guy. And you also probably recognize that I am not authoring code in Visual Studio, partly because it's really slow to start up. I need something lightweight and reactive. Mouse capture. Am I in the right module? I'm not. Let's close that one down. That's confusing. Where is it? Here it is. Okay, so I just use Visual Studio now to debug with. It's got a really good debugger. And I was going to look for our mouse capture routine. There it is. All right, so we're going to put a breakpoint down here, and what I'm doing is I'm gonna take a look at the viewport and see what these values are. This is kind of a crappy way to develop code. It's kind of like, I don't know, see what the number is, and then kind of build around it instead of really understanding what is the coordinate system that the viewport is in. Now, underneath I'm pretending I don't know, but I just want to verify. So I'm going to set a breakpoint here. We're going to run Iron. Takes a little bit to start it up. Oh, old breakpoints. And unfortunately, okay, so Iron started up, and what's going to happen is when I press down the mouse, the keymap system is going to recognize this binding, mouse left, and that I've pressed it. It's going to pick the mouse, and if it successfully picks the mouse, in other words, if I pick out in space, this routine is going to come back and say, hey, false. And this is a context check as well. So if the context fails, I'm picking out in space, this command, the following function, the following action is not executed, okay? But since I'm full screen, I'm going to just pick and it's going to be successful, and we're going to hit our breakpoint. So I'm pressing the button now, breakpoint, okay. So let's drop down one more line, take a look at the viewport. What is our viewport values? Watch, and I'm, okay, this is super tiny. I realize that, and I don't know offhand how, the text is big, and that's one of the things about Visual Studio is it's gargantuan. And I've changed the font size, and my mapping, Control Plus, is normally the way you do it in Visual Studio, but somewhere along the line, my mappings got screwed up. And it's kind of like, I don't come here very often, and I generally don't change the font size, and I generally don't do anything but debug. So I have to apologize. This is really itty bitty tiny, tiny stuff down here in the watch window, looking at the locals. So the viewport values. So what we can see is the left is 2, and the right is some big old number off to the side. And so the top is 1056, and the bottom is 2. So we know our number system, our coordinate system goes from bottom to top. So the viewport is being expressed in, and I'm absolutely certain of this, in OpenGL space. That's the reference frame and the coordinate system. So the bottom is 2, y goes up 156, okay? And the fact that it's 2 from the bottom, there's some padding. And let me kind of show you, and we'll change this value. Whoops. Oh, and I had disabled. Let's see. Oh, I press this again. So I'm gonna let iron run here. And our mouse capture has screwed us up because we stopped in the middle. Debugging does that sometimes. Let's see. We're just going to restart. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to change the dimensions of the pane. And I'm so sorry you can't hear the audio when it starts up because it's just a crack up. Yeah, everything's really, really slow here when I debug in the Gorilla. So let's go back to our code. Where was it? It was mouse.capture. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, oh wait, let's show it. And I'm going to change the size of our panes by increasing the gap between the panes. And if I remember right, I thought I had in my preparation here. Yeah, shrink, there it is. Okay, so I've increased the gap. Okay, so this pane now is further off in the distance from the client pane. So what viewport's going to show us now is that the bottom is here, the bottom left is down here on the lower, and the upper right is right up here. Okay, that's our pane. So I'm going to press the button and the debugger will, oh, it didn't try, because I turned it off. Let's just set it again. And iron's gone nuts because the debugger has interrupted it. All right. So now we look at viewport in this teeny, teeny, tiny little text, and I'm sorry about that. We got to go one more line. Okay, and you can see that now left is 30 pixels off. The bottom is 30 pixels from the bottom of the screen. Okay. So that's our coordinate system. So we know that we're sitting in OpenGL space, and that was just to verify that. Okay, so now I need to convert this panes to screen space. That's what we're ultimately trying to do. So I can convert it to client space. Instead of getting the client, I can populate this and then convert from client to screen space. So I'm actually going to copy these guys. I know I'm going to use those, and we'll put them down here. I just got to get the right numbers in there. So, pouring cast, wrecked. Thinking out loud. So what I want is left to equal something, and right, and left top right bottom. Okay, and that's what we need to feed some kind of values in there and get them into client space. So we're going to convert from OpenGL space, oops, got to spell it right, to client space. All right. And then down here, we're convert from client space to screen space. And then we'll pass it off to Windows. Okay. So, let's see. Well, what's left going to be? If we think about this for a second, let's close. Let's just kind of close them temporarily. And this one I don't think we need anymore. What else have we got hiding back there? We'll leave that guy on there. Okay, so we need to convert the left, and we need it to get from when our pane is squeezed down. Okay, I'll make that big. Here's our, when the pane is squeezed down, we know it's 30 pixels now from the bottom. So what we need to convert this bottom number to is to something that's big. It sounds kind of trivial. This is me coding in really slow motion and trying to articulate it. So I apologize if it seems a little bit pedestrian. You know, streaming again is just not really my natural thing. Thorvald, you're back. Oh, please share with us. Yeah, why Thorvald? And our capture is set up wrong. What's going on here? Oh, that's really interesting. Why is that? We seem to have induced a bug. Well, that's not surprising. Oh yeah, it's not just when debugging in Visual Studio. Why is that? Dun, 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 dun. That's really interesting. So anyway, we've injected a bug somewhere. Capturing the mouse, setting the clip, running out. Let's take a look at our keymap file. See if we can kind of figure out what's going on here. So our keymap file, pick the mouse, but it captures it. Never gets to this line when we capture on a press because this one's executing and it's come back supposedly successful. Let's make sure. There's our success. Drops out of the switch statement. Yes. Let's comment these changes for a second. Okay, so oh, well, now that's just not right. Okay. What did we do? Tell you what, let's make the default action the action. Multiple times, apparently. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm ignoring the parameter, and it's just going to execute what it did normally. Oh, that's well, that explains it. Duh. Okay, so we're actually executing this code, and what's going on is it's saying, "Hey, clip to 0, 0, 0, and 0. This rect is 0. This rectangle, okay, it's 0. So it is. It's clipping up here in the upper left, and that's as far as I can move the mouse. That's pretty funny. So it kind of caught us part way. So it's not really a bug. It's just the fact that we haven't written the stuff that's supposed to work. So let's do that. Narrating and thinking, just not a strong suit for me, apparently. Let's have a coffee break. Oh my gosh, and if you can't laugh at yourself while you're coding, you're just, taking it all too serious. Programming should be fun. Okay, so what I want to do is um, what is the left value supposed to be? So let's exaggerate this some more. So where was that? 30. Let's make it a nice even 100. Okay, some of those panes kind of squeaked away. They got too small. So what we need to do is we're getting a value for the left that is right here. X is OpenGL, so it's 0, 0 down in the lower left corner of the client space. Y goes up, and left starts here. So we're getting a number out here that's going to be positive 100. And what we need to do is convert from the panes space to the client space. So we're going to have to subtract this amount of distance here. All right. And that'll put the left value into client space. And then it's converted to, you can see back here, it's converted to screen space. Okay. So we need to subtract the delta of the viewport to move the left to the left. All right, let's do that. So it's going to look something like, okay, viewport dot left. And I want to subtract, oh, that's interesting. Okay, again, thinking. No, the stream is not frozen. I'm just kind of thinking. Well, let's just shove it in there. Okay. And then the top we know is upside down. Okay. In other words, top is a smaller number than the bigger number. I'm sorry, is a bigger number than the smaller number because y goes up and we need to convert it to client space. Okay. And what are we converting? We're converting the viewport of pane. Oh, this is kind of interesting. So we're going to wind up with hang on here. Let's just be silly here. Ah, I know exactly what we're doing. Top, left, right. Okay, if we were in the same spaces, what it would look like. Right. Bottom. Gosh, learn how to type. And this is going to be wrong. Okay, that's fine. Let's get this down. Go back to the gorilla. Where is it? There it is. And we're going to trap to here. Okay, let's run it. Okay, I'm clicking the mouse button there. It didn't trap. Why did it not trap? Because we did this. Okay, let's take that out. Run it again. Okay, there it trapped. So what is the viewport? What's the rectangle that we're passing in? And again, apologize for this super tiny text. I don't know how to change it down here in this window. Okay, so the left is 100. And it's kind of funny. The left and right are going to be correct because we're converting from pane space to client space. And the pane space is, in fact, when there's a single pane. Wait a second, am I saying this right? Yeah, the viewport of the pane is already in OpenGL space, and it's which aligns with client space, but the Y goes in a different direction. I know it's all a little confusing. Um, so the left and right are going to be correct already. Okay, the top and the bottom are they're upside down. So what we need to do is subtract the top from the height of the viewport. So viewport dot, and does it have height? Let's find out. And we'll just compile. Hey, look at that. There's a height. Might be off by one because Windows kind of does a strange thing with its viewports. It tends to make regions that it uses one pixel too big or one pixel too small, and it's something they inherited from Apple when they were optimizing their GUI. They borrowed from each other. Okay, so bum 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 bum, and I think the bottom is going to be a big number. No, that's not going to be right. It's going to be viewport height. And you can get in transformation hell here or changing spaces from one to the other, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be the other way around. Minus viewport height. I believe that's what it is. Let's find out. And we still have our system running, so it won't compile. We'll link it if that is. Link it now. There we go. Run it again. And Nuno Malix. I love the name, and I'm sure I'm butchering it, but I'm glad you're here. Sanjay V. Glad you're here. Tahuk. It's almost Tahoe where I used to live. And Thorvald, you're back again. So all of you, I just want to say thank you, and please let friends know. Let's grab them. This stream, I'm going to end it pretty soon here. We've almost got it working, and it's also just kind of running a little bit long. But I just wanted to show folks how Iron works in a production environment. And our beta release is coming out soon, so I want to get your hands, get it out there, get it done. And of course, streaming while I'm trying to work is, crazy slow, I've got to say, because I don't generally have to describe what's going on inside my head, and it's, that's just a hard thing to do in general. But when people are watching, it's even harder. Okay, so now I'm saying that the top is at 627 and the bottom is at 100. And is that what client space is? Nah, that doesn't seem right to me. It really should be the top should wind up being like 100 and the bottom should be something that's almost the height of the whole. Let's just run this again. It's gonna do goofy things. So I know this to not be correct. All right. So really, then the top should be something that's about 100, and the bottom should be something. I'm in a 920 by 180, so I'm in a 180p monitor here. So it should be about 100 pixels up. So it should be at 980, right? 979 or something like that. And what did we actually get? It was. Oh, I need to click and break there again. What did it actually wind up being? The bottom is wrong. The top is also wrong. I'm pretty sure the left and right are correct. All right. So we definitely need the top. And let's quit this. Again, thinking and narrating, just not a strong suit, but I'll keep going. Okay, so the top in OpenGL space is some value from here to here. I need to subtract out is the height. So it was right the other way around. Okay, so the height is a big old number. Top is kind of in OpenGL space is kind of a big old number. Bottom from up here. So that'll give us kind of a tiny number, the delta. All right. The bottom pane, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be backwards now. in OpenGL space is going to be something about 100, kind of small. And what we want is it to be actually really kind of large. So let's start with large. Yes, this is what goes on inside my head to answer some questions. So we're going to subtract out the bottom. So that will leave something really large, subtracted out by something kind of small, leaves the delta, I believe. Let's just find out. And we'll make it big again. Hope I didn't run out of that. I'm outside the debugger. Okay, run the debugger. Jesse, welcome aboard. Glad you're here. Okay, and I'm gonna break. And what is our viewport coordinates again? Super teeny tiny, and I wish I could make it bigger. So now the top is plainly not right. I'm just not getting this right. And the bottom is 100. Okay, so you're going to be going, this is the way you solve problems? It's kind of, well, yeah, kind of a little bit at a time. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. So I've calculated the delta, the top of the so okay. I'll come back and actually fix this later, but we're going to take the height and subtract the delta, and that'll give us our new piece. You know, I believe. You'd be surprised. I've actually, had lots of math, calculus, and lots of computer graphics, and it's just not showing, is it? Okay, when I start giggling and cacking, that means it's almost time to end the stream. Okay, so what is the value here? Viewport. It's still wrong. Dun, 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 dun. Wow, I'm so sorry. I'm kind of got this wrong here. Dun, 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 so it really should be, wrong thing. It really should be top. Now I'm wondering if height is even correct. I start questioning things. So let's, again, teeny tiny steps. Let's quit this. Whoops. Compile this. And run this. Let's just check our viewport. Make sure it says something like something close to 1080p. So our viewport is, its height is, okay. Oh, okay, I'm actually right on. So yeah, height is height of the pane. I need the height of the client space is what I'm doing wrong. Right on, okay. Yep, that's what I'm doing wrong. So I have, in a bag of tricks here, we have another view. It's called view window, and it's an OpenGL space. So we're gonna subtract the height from the top to the again. So it is view window viewport dot height. Okay, so that's going from all the way to the bottom of the client space to the top in OpenGL space. So that's going to be So that's going to be, that's not what I wanted. Quit. Yeah, the windows in OpenGL space is going to be from bottom to top. So its height is going to be about 1080p. It's going to be a little less minus the border. All right. So let's quit this. I'm going to subtract the viewport top. That'll give me the delta from here to here-ish. All right. We're going to do the same thing here. View window. And we're going to subtract the viewport from the bottom. You can see this is production. This is not a completely canned demo. Let's see what we've got. All right, so let's go back to the compiler or the debugger, the gargantuan debugger. And we trap on it. Let's see what our viewport is now. So the top is still huge. The bottom is small. We kind of need to invert those. Yes. All right, cancel that. Is that gonna be right? That's the delta. Okay, again, I'm kind of doing math in longhand and not making it pretty. Viewport dot height. So the top is, that's our delta. Oops, typing is bad today. View window. Yeah, viewport dot height. And my typing still sucks. That's not going to be right. Well, let's see what we've got. Run it again. Yeah, I just have to admit, I'm getting a little bit fatigued and giggly, and thinking is kind of gone out the window. And why are we not breaking here? It's still not breaking. That's okay. What changed? That's what changed. As it didn't get linked. All right. User error. Again, that idea of fatigue is starting to take its toll, and I really shouldn't try to program when tired. Nobody should, right? I'll just make more puzzles and defects as we go along. So there's the top, it's still wrong. There's the bottom, it's still wrong as well. Okay, well, anyway, I'm gonna come to an end because I do need to move on, and fatigue has set in. And it's, I can do more damage, or I can spend time spinning wheels and, probably never come up with a solution until I take a break and get out and ride the bike out in the hills, as long as it's not raining too much, and it doesn't look like it. Looks pretty good here in Tennessee near Knoxville. So let me conclude. Once I get this conversion from OpenGL space to client space, it'll get converted to screen space and clipped. And then we can set up, copy and paste this stuff. See, I can't even say it anymore. And get the rest of the views that are out there. And these views are, here's the text view, and the same thing for the line number and the minimap. And the minimap was where we were headed. So I'll go in and finish this later after a break, but I think it's time to quit. I just wanted to show folks kind of what it was, how iron works in a production environment. And normally I'm spread out and I have multiple panes and I'm working in a font size that's itty bitty, teeny tiny. Um, and I can sit really close to my screen. So turn off the phone and I don't have to narrate. So, and my voice is almost gone, I can tell. So, coming to a conclusion, I really appreciate everybody showing up. I'm sorry I didn't get the entire change made, but you did see the parts where, um, where we went in and added a parameter, talked a bunch about slang. Had a few issues that we corrected and almost got the functionality going. Yeah, not bad. We'll live with that, and I'll fix it up later. And then there's more clipping we can do to a cursor, and I'll probably even just save that till after the beta, since the beta is coming up. That's what I want to point out to you as we depart. Is our beta is coming up next month, and we'll see if we can how much of the functionality of iron we can get in and get ready for a nice prototype, so we can get it into your hands. You can try it out and give us some comments, give us some ideas, let us know what works and doesn't work. Our website's coming together at darkviking.com, so please go and check that out. Join our forum. It's kind of in motion right now. There's not a lot in it. In fact, there's nothing. But once we get the beta out there, that's how we'll communicate back and forth, is through the forum, and I'll keep my eyes on that. So anyway, again, thank you very much. I'm John, Dark Viking. Iron is what we're making, and we're just anxious to get it out there so folks can use it and enjoy the wonderment of 3D in a text editor. Really comes in handy when you're getting tired in the middle of the night, or even if it's like in the middle of the day today. If I can get a chuckle out of something, and it keeps me programming because I'm inspired, for the silly things that we can make in software. That's a good thing. So, all right, go out and program and come back later this week. I don't know when yet. I'll schedule, probably 2 streams again, and I apologize for the time. Certainly come back after we've streamed and take a look at the videos. They're there on LiveEdu, and you can check out our YouTube site. I'm also posting them up there. So, please share with friends. It's really important now to get as many folks as we can to look at it, so we get some great feedback and ideas, and hopefully build some excitement. So thank you very much. Have a great day. It's Sunday. Go do Sunday things, as in don't program. All right.